Hi, I'm Karen Gibbs, Creative Director for Banyan Batiks by Northcott, and you are in the group Karen Gibbs for the Love of Batiks. We're talking all about batiks and how we use them, what kind of projects we like to use them for, and really how they're made. That's what I cover every Thursday at this time, how batiks are made and all the different processes that go into making the batiks because they are all hand done. Today I want to talk about color application. Now, color application, that's a huge topic actually, believe it or not, because you've got to think about the layering of different colors, right? Or choosing different colors. How do you go about choosing the different colors? And if you're layering them a certain way, they mix in the process a certain way. Have you guys ever done a watercolor painting? Have you gone and tried a watercolor class or something like that? When you put the paint down, you know those little watercolor palettes that we used to have, you put the paint down on top of water, right? If you've covered the sheet in water first or painted it, like wet painted it, and then put the color on, it kind of bursts. Whereas if you didn't put the water down first, what happens? It doesn't go as far, right? And then also, what about if you use, once you put the color down, or maybe you put 3 or 4 colors down, you have a burst here of blue, burst here of purple, burst here of pink or aqua or green, okay? So they have a concentrated burst of color in one area, but then it melds into something else. And does it become, is it an attractive color that you like? That it melds into something else, or do you add some salt onto that painting, kind of like I would use soda ash for the batiks. You use the salt on that painting and gives little teeny bursts, which are kind of an interesting effect, right? Or what if you're painting, you put wet down on the paper first and then you brush in stripes color and you're trying to get the sunset, right? The colors meld into one another there too. Even if you look at the sunrise, sunset in your sky, you see the colors blend together in so many different hues, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful to experiment. But of course, when I'm choosing color applications, I have to have, when I'm coming up a collection, I want to have a color palette in mind. So what I do is I go through and I say, okay, what color palette am I looking for to go with a certain collection? And yes, certain focuses or themes of a collection dictate the color, right? Like Northern Lights, you've seen Northern Lights collection, that dictates it. My bandana collection, red, white, blue, and gray, it dictates kind of what you're going to do with your color palette. And are you going to have a lot of multis in there? That's another thing. When you think about color application, are you going to have tone on tones? Okay, so how many colors then are in the motif versus the background? Maybe you have 3 or 4 in the background and 3 or 4 in the motif that are all different shades of blue. Okay, and you get a tone on tone look. Or maybe you want it a little less, I don't want to say chaotic, but a little more flat in color. So maybe you use the dark in the motif and maybe a lighter green in the background, and it's more of a tone on tone that we're used to seeing in regular cotton kind of fabrics. With batiks, what's so interesting is if you focus on the color application with them, the sky's the limit. You put so many different colors and create so many different colors when you apply the colors on there. All right, so if you're focused on color, and I covered a little bit tone on tone there, right? What about a multi? What's a multi to you? Is it a rainbow? Is it a rainbow bright? Or is it more analogous? Think of your color wheel, and maybe you go, just here on the bottom of the color wheel, or you do the warm hues, or you stay in the center or something like that. Or what if you do, skip around? What's going to happen when you apply those colors? A full-on multi would be skipping around, right? But I consider a multi, if you're doing it, maybe you're doing a purple, blue, and kind of a turquoisey. That's a multi, right? And then do you do that also in the motif? So if you do that in the background, maybe you do dark hues of the blues and the turquoises and the purples. do you then think about doing the light versions of those in the motif? Or what if instead you start in the background, you start with blue, that's your first color that you apply, then you do turquoise, then you do purple. And then when you do your motif, you do it backwards. So you do purple, and then maybe you do blue, and then you do turquoise, because it's going to blend differently, right? So you can create a really unique kind of multi. And then as far as when you're applying color with batiks, as far as scrunching up the fabric, and we call that smoking or smocking. And all it is scrunching up the fabric. And the reason you do that is because when you go to apply the color, you want it to spread, right? You want it to kind of not have very set sponge look of color application. You want it to spread and bleed into each other, bleed into it, and gain, 4 or 5 more colors that you haven't applied, just because those colors do bleed in together. And then also the soda application, the soda ash, and that gives the effect, and it helps the colors process, I guess. And also, the sun or the heat helps the colors process and saturate. So sometimes with color application, we talk about rainy season in Bali, in Indonesia. And rainy season is about 50% production. Does it rain every single day? No. A lot of days it does absolutely rain. Just like here, does it snow every single day? No. But if it were going to rain, say at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they've only got the motif colors down and they put it in the sun and it hasn't processed enough, the color saturation is not going to be there. So it's difficult to time it. They're constantly watching as far as making sure to time the color processing, how long that color is on that fabric, so you can get the vibrant colors. Or maybe you don't want that full-on saturation, you wanted something in a mid-tone. Then your process of color is not going to be that intense, right? It's not going to be as long. Now remember, when you're doing color application with batiks, the first colors that you put down is the motif. Then you put the wax to hold the motif pattern down. Then you bleach it out, and then you put the color over it for the background, right? And then you put the background colors on it, and then you've got to wash off all of that wax. Okay, so there's a lot of different processes, but knowing which way you're going to layer your color is kind of important. Not only layer your color from motif to background, but also what colors you apply first. So today, just to show you what I'm talking about, a little bit of color application, I'm going to talk about my destination collections. And just like you, I feel totally cooped up this year, and I think about all the different places I'd like to go and let the colors that come to my head when I think of those places dictate a collection. Okay, so I focused on my destination collections very much how I apply color, and making sure that every single one of them probably wasn't going to be a tone on tone. It was going to be some sort of multi. But how did I layer that color, right? So let's look at this one. This one is Caribbean. Now, these are not in stores yet. Okay, these are not in stores yet. Stores have just a little bit more time to order them, and then they'll be in stores come November, I think it is. But look at this one right here. You can see the different colors in the motif, and it's got the greens in there. It's got some turquoises in there, right? You've got a darker turquoise there, a lighter one there, okay? And then in the background, we've got a blue. It's not really a turquoise. It's more of a blue and almost a pale yellow there. And then we've also got some green in there, all right? So there's quite a bit of color that goes on there. This one here is a very nice soft color, but there, you look at it from a distance, it reads one color, right? But there's so much going on in the color application there. Lots of different soft color, whereas in the background I played with more color. In the motif there's less color. okay? And that gives me contrast then too, to showcase the motif. This one has a lot more going on with big balls of color, or bigger sections of color in the background, whereas in the motif, it's not that much color changing in it, is it? You've got a little bit of the green and the turquoise, but I left the color changing to be more in the background of that one, okay? You can see this one, same type of thing. You can see the checks right here. There's not that much color change. Maybe there's 2 or 3 different colors that I chose. As a result, then you gain like 4 or 5 because they melt together. But in the background, I used a lot more color changes. I went to dark green actually here, right? I've got turquoise in there. I've got a little touch of purple actually in there too. I've got blue in there. So there's a ton of different colors that you choose. So if you think about how many different colors are in each one, you've got to choose the colors that go in the motifs, the colors that go in the background, and the order that they are applied, as well as how much scrunching or smoking you want done, and how much soda you want put down. Now this one has green. It reads green, but there's so many other colors going on that hints of them in the motif, right? Okay, here's some more from the Destination Caribbean. And then I want to show you a little bit of Destination Amazon. All right, isn't this a nice warm creamy tone? And then look at this. I've got grays and browns and taupes. I've got a touch of gold in there. I've got a little bit of peach in the motif. All right, the motif doesn't have a lot of color contrast or color change going on, but the background, there's so much going on, so it plays really beautifully. But you can tell a lot of these are not tone on tone. There's so much going on, and that's why I think we celebrate batiks, right? Love this one. You can see a bigger piece of it, right? Okay, and this is the flip side, or some more SKUs with it. Now, I did mention that we're just releasing 2 more destinations, and I chose Ireland, and yes, you're right, we got some greens in there, okay? We got some green tones here, and then look at that, I flipped it. So here, the dark color is in the motif, okay, and all of those changes of color on the background, and here, it's opposite. Pretty cool, right? And here we go. Just popped a little bit of blue in there. Okay, some citrus green. Just a lot of different colorations that you can play with. The next place was Himalayas. And you guys got it right. As far as you're thinking like mountains, right? Like dark grays and blues for blue sky. And then this is more the white for snow. Or this one's the white for the snow, right? You can do white with batiks, is beautiful. But the crisp, clean, neutral is very important too. And then I also did the Himalayan sea salt kind of effect, because I love that color. And I thought it went really beautifully with the plum coloration that's in there. So we've got greens and we've got purples and we've got blues, okay? So that's the Himalayan destination. All right, so I chose that as a kind of a collection because I feel all cooped up like everybody else does. We've got a little bit more to go here with this pandemic, hopefully. So we put together a challenge. I think I mentioned it last week, and we're going to have our first little mini challenge within the bigger batik challenge next week, and I'll let you know what that is next week. But if you haven't gotten a chance to yet, drop over to my website, KarenGibbsDesigns.com, and you'll get a free pattern for signing up for the newsletter. And that's the pattern that I used with my Heroes collection. And it's called Scenes and Ladders. But it just gives you an idea of what you can do with batiks. The challenge is from Memorial Day or Victoria Day through July, the beginning of July or July 4th. And what does summer mean to you? And taking all that energy you have built up and just want to get out there and celebrate summer, let's put it into a batik project, okay? So I thought maybe that would be fun. Like I said, next week will be our first time or our first mini challenge, and we'll do some door prizes and things like that. If you comment today, we will send out a fat quarter bundle. So make sure you comment in the comments section. If you've been over to my website, the first 10 who had signed up, we're sending a fat quarter to. So make sure to look for an email from me. You should get it today or tomorrow to get your address so I can send it to you. Okay, thanks so much for joining me today.